Have you listened to the podcast before?
Oh yeah, I've almost all of them, but not quite all.
Ah, okay.
Really,
Good.
almost all. Wow.
Almost all of them. All of them except for the Baltic Blades ones.
God fucking damn it. Cut it out, Albert. Cut it out.
Well, next to your name, there's a picture of a red speaker. If you need to mute yourself for any reason, you just click
Okay.
on that.
Like if I need to take a piss or something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, good luck for it! Europe Podcast!
What's up, guys?
What is up?
Yeah, it seems like we're missing somebody.
Albert is with our last guest, having some good time.
With Sid Knives, yeah, and I already wrote him and to make sure he didn't break anything over there. And he said he didn't break anything of theirs, but he did ruin his first Damascus billet that he was trying to forge with them. It's like smashed into like 5 pieces or something.
Maybe he learned something from it, at least.
Hopefully,
Otherwise,
yeah.
it's expensive mistakes.
I would guess it's probably the massive selection of power hammers he's got over there, and he just couldn't control it. So I think you should start off with your week. I think you've never started. What's going on? What did you do this week?
I think I did. I did for the very... Or maybe I did not. Whatever. Like this week, to condense it, I was actually solving an issue with my Kydex sheets, where, especially with the Varnas ones, my universal bushcrafting knife, where I had like just a few complaints throughout the like year or year and a half while the model is running, that the Kydex sheet is actually scratching the blade sides. And it was really daunting. It was super, strange. Just because I model it to have like at least a 0.5 millimeter space for every side,
Yeah.
So the steel is never touching, never, ever. Even with the variance of the thickness of the steel, it should not be touching. So I was just thinking about it. How could it be? Maybe the person is putting in the knife like crooked, sideways, whatever. And I couldn't actually find through this method how you can actually scratch the side of the bevel, like exactly side of the bevel, almost in the middle of the knife. And it dawned on me when I saw one of my friends, who is not a very knife guy, take out a knife.
He's squeezing it with his hand.
Exactly. Like there is a thumb ramp and you should use your thumb, but when you are holding it with your both hands, you're holding knife in one hand and the sheath in the other, and you are just pulling, you're actually applying pressure, and the Kydex is then touching the side of, possibly touching the side of the knife. And I find a solution for that. Basically now the contours were a flat side of the bevel and the angle of the bevel, so you can basically make out a contour of the knife from the impression in the Kydex. What I did was super simple, and I saw some other people do in the industry too, is you make the side of the knife a radius, a small curve. When you look from the side, it's like basically a huge convex on the blade itself. And then when you try and press with your finger, the Kydex doesn't give it as easily. So it took almost like a day and a half to make a new mold that is working, and it is also backward compatible with all of the knives. And it looks way nicer now also. So I don't know. It's a win. It's a win-win-win. And I'm also, you wanted to ask maybe something about that?
No, I'm just saying. I'm just thinking about those. You do what's the name of that finish that you put on it? It's not like a Cerakote kind of finish, the blackened finish that you do.
I do a blackened finish. It was in the past of my knives, but I don't do now.
Yeah, those ones scratch easy. I mean, if somebody's squeezing the sheath like that.
Yeah, you are. And if you have like strong retention, then it requires you to grip tightly the sheath itself, and like your fingers are exactly on that place, on that bevel. So now it should be way harder. And I'm also preparing from Knife Show Austria. Again, Martin Huber, sponsor us, which will happen on May 10th, 11th. And actually, I was working on screws today. I was working on shortening 200 M4 screws.
Why don't you just buy the right size?
There is no right size for me. There is no right size because like the shortest is like 6 millimeters, I think, and I need like 2.8. It's impossible. Like they cannot do it without milling, as they are form shaping or whatever. So they can't do that. So and I also do a satin finish on each head of the screw.
Yeah.
So I'm halfway there. 100 screws done, and fixtures for them to be shortened are also done, as I am shortening them on a CNC. And if our dear listeners, if somebody has a great way to shorten a screw to 1/10 of a millimeter accuracy, please write me ADM at Baltic Blades on Instagram. I would highly appreciate that.
You just got to make a metal plate with a whole shitload of threaded holes in it, and put all your screws in it, and run it through the fly cutter.
This is what I do now. Maybe there is something easier. Maybe like a plier, Nipex, something where you just chip and it's done. You know, I want something easy.
Yeah, but you fuck up the threads, and you got to round all the threads out, and then it's not so accurate anymore.
Maybe there is something like, pro. I don't know.
Lasers.
Yeah. It would melt the end. Yeah, the threads will be fucked up too. So yeah, I'm basically working on my big batch of knives, and I will have to put an order for G10 at your place, so maybe we can work out. Yeah, of course. I get and especially Ultim. I might bring some Ultim also into the show. So yeah, gotta get that done. So how about your week?
Yeah, speaking of Ultim, that shit's online already, so I was cutting a bunch of scales this week, and I made some bigger sheet sizes, so you can get a couple knives out of it if you want to spend a couple bucks more. And I'm working on a new like thermocouple kit for the forge. A lot of people here in Europe are using Apex Ultra, and you pretty much got to keep to a specific temperature. And also with the last episode talking about copper Damascus and stuff like that, where everybody's using the electric kilns, I wanted to make a digital readout, like a digital display with the accurate thermocouple that you can put into the forge. So I got one with a stainless steel like casing around it, and it has like a small 5 centimeter wide like flange that goes on the outside of the forge. So you just drill 8 millimeter hole, slide the thermocouple in, and then you can screw it to the outside of the forge body and just have a readout. So you can't change the temperature with it, but you can adjust it pretty well, the Apollo, using the air ratio and the gas and stuff. So at least you'll have an idea of.
It's not a PID, it's just showing the current temperature.
The actual temperature, yeah. I think that'll be pretty cool. I'll send one to Albert so they can test it out first.
And is it easy to, you are basically adjusting the air to fuel ratio? Is it easy? Is it gradual adjustment?
I mean, so there's something in the gas line called a needle valve, which does like a really fine adjustment of how much gas pressure that goes through to the ribbon burner. So it's, I mean, if you don't have a temperature readout and you've never used a ribbon burner before, you can adjust it like way too much or not enough. It's just really fine adjustments once you get close to the temperatures you want to be at.
I only played in the past with the Venturi burners and an actual readout of like this big square thingy where you connect your thermocouple, where it shows. Yeah. And in a Venturi is way harder to regulate the air, how much air is it coming in if you don't make, accurate, like threaded covers for the air intake, as it is not forced, like in Apollo case, I guess.
Upgrade. Even if you're not using a ribbon burner, you should upgrade to some forced air. It makes a big difference.
And do you sell? Do you sell the upgrade kits that you can upgrade to forced air?
Yeah, I have the fan kits. It's like they call it like a squirrel cage fan or a snail. It looks like a snail fan. I don't know what you call them here.
It's for the castle, for kids' jumpy castle.
Yeah, it's actually made for a bouncy castle, which is specifically to work under like back pressure. So this thing could run completely shut off for days without it affecting the fan at all. And it works really good. Fingal's got one, and Albert's using them. There's a couple of people around that have got them. I'll be bringing those to Knife Show Austria. And speaking of Knife Show Austria, our guest will be joining us there. He's going to be making his way up from Alaska. He's also been in Blade Magazine. He's got his own brewery, Anchorage Brewery, and a kick-ass line of collaborations with other knife makers where he has somebody draw. I think his name is Massive Face that does all the drawings for him. Is that correct, Gabe?
Yeah, that's right.
I heard a little rumor that there might be a special kind of beer coming to Knife Show Austria. Can you tell us about that, or is it a secret?
No, it's not a secret. I think I already posted the drawing of Martin. But yeah, Massive Face did a drawing of him, and I'm working on a knife that I'm going to send out to Martin, and he's going to do the handle work on it. And I think, I don't know if you guys saw that little Mercury that I made recently on Instagram with a crazy Damascus pattern.
All your stuff's got crazy Damascus patterns.
Okay. I think that's going to be the one that I send to Martin.
How does that work out?
To send it?
Do they limit you to the amount you can bring over or anything? Are you going to have any problems with that?
Yeah, I think for this kind of thing, we're going to end up just sending probably like a few boxes of it. That way, yeah, there'll be enough for you guys to try and everything, but we're not going to be able to actually serve it at the show. We tried, but there's a lot of hoops to go through to get that done. Even though we do distribute in Europe, but it was just, we don't distribute in Austria, so there are just too many hoops to get over. But I'm sending a bunch down, so everyone at the show will get to try it. I know Martin's doing that little thing at his place. I think we're going to debut the beer there.
Yeah.
Is there a difference when you are trying to sell beer, you're from Alaska and you're trying to ship it to Europe, where you're trying to ship it to a, B2C, business to customer, like in cans? Would it be different if you would try and ship it like in a huge keg container, whatever, and sell it not to a direct consumer, but another business like Martin's business?
Like a distributor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what we were trying to do, but it was just getting too close, the timing, and it just wasn't enough time to bring it all together. I think if we had more time, we could make it happen, but for a little one-off batch, it's almost not worth the work to get it done and the money to get it shipped over there. I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money just to ship these few cases over. We'll probably send like 80 cans over or something.
Yeah, shipping to Europe is crazy from the U.S.
I know when I was sending the cases of beer to Ben, it was spendy. Sending, I can't remember how many cans. I think he got like 48 cans or something like that.
Yeah.
And he gave none to me.
I got a 6-pack. I got a 6-pack of it.
That bastard. Benjamin, I will hold a grudge. And do you ship by air or by boat?
Well, it depends. For this little thing, we'll just be shipping FedEx.
Mm-hmm.
But normally, we ship beer all over the world. We're in South Korea, in Japan, Australia, a bunch of countries in Europe, and mostly Western Europe. A bunch of states down south. Canada. So.
Do you ship to customers or other businesses?
Only to businesses or distributors.
Okay.
But there is a company that we work with called Tavor. They're based out of Washington, and we sell beer to them basically weekly, and they have an online subscription where once like the beer will be offered to them on an app, and then you can say, which beers you want, and then they'll ship it directly to your door. But it's only in like 23 states in the U.S.
So if I, in Lithuania, want to get some of your beer, is there a way for me to get it?
There is possibly one company, and it's called Brew Export. I could get you the info on it, but they're one of our European distributors, and they ship direct to consumers in Europe from the UK.
That would be great.
And we're literally just getting ready to send another batch out.
When you ship to them, is it your standard beers, or does that include any of these special knife maker collabs?
No, we send some of the knife collabs. It kind of depends on what we have when they place the order.
Mm-hmm.
So if the timing's right, because we always try and send out fresh beer to them, or anybody really. So, and we make new beers every single week. So it just depends on which beers we have available when they place their order.
Yeah, that was one of the concerns about Ben's beer being an IPA. I never really thought about that, about the freshness, and that you had a certain amount of time where you, like a window where you're supposed to drink it in order to get the best flavor from it.
Yeah, because I think you're asking me if I could ship it to your family's house in the U.S.
In the U.S.
And then you come and get it during the summertime. I was like, that beer would be bad, but
yeah. Well, at least they told me. I mean, could have sold it to me, and then. So Gabe is also gonna be joining us for the charity project. He's gonna make a knife for Clean for Goodness. In English, it would be Knives for Good. So
yeah, I'm actually pretty excited
got the design
about that.
from Ben.
Yep.
It's gonna be pretty
I already
cool.
cut it out. Yeah, I'll be working on some Damascus here soon. I'm just trying to, man, I have so much. I just recently made like 13 knives for my employees for a special event I did for them at the brewery here. And that's eaten up a lot of my time. I never made that many knives in a row before. It was like, I think I'm more of a one knife guy. Making that many knives, it's a lot of work.
Like all the same style, or are they each individual knives?
They're all the same. Yeah. All forged. Well, Ben actually helped me out quite a bit on that. It was kind of, I couldn't make 13 of my like high-end Damascus knives. It would take me like a year. So I made all these like hammer textured brute to forge knives in Apex Ultra. No integral bolsters or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it allowed me to get them done. I think it took me like 2 months or something.
So you did not like working in batches?
No, I don't know.
Interesting.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't do this for the money. I do it for fun and for like a stress relief and that kind of thing. I already have my day job that, I make my money at. But I like making Damascus and being creative and just focusing on one piece at a time.
Taking your time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always in a rush, but I do like to take it.
Why are you rushing? Take your time.
It's my nature. I can't stand still. I always got to be doing something. I always got to be creative.
Do you have like long ongoing knife projects where like are set aside, like, you do some parts of it and it is sitting for like a few months? Or do you just do one knife, you finish it, and then up to the next project?
I'll usually forge out maybe 2 or 3 knives at a time, and then I'll finish those out. Because normally when I'm making the Damascus, it's quite a bit of Damascus. It's enough for at least 2 or 3 knives, but then I'll get some other kind of inspiration, and if I don't like the way it turned out, I just set it aside and move on to the next thing. So I got a pile of knives.
Oh, so you actually have knives that are never finished.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
But they have no faults, right? You are just not excited by them.
Yeah, it's usually like I didn't like I haven't been doing this very long, I'm just coming up on 3 years now, so
just 3 years? I'm looking at your Nakiri, like Damascus pattern.
yeah.
You have been doing this just for 3 years?
Yeah.
You Jesus.
You got a huge jump start by learning from like some of the best makers.
Yeah.
I'm quitting.
Yeah. I mean, Mareko's, he's like kind of like my mentor and good friend of mine, and he showed me so much stuff over the years. And I started working with him, and I'd only been making knives for I think 6 months. I first started working with him.
Yeah.
And the first time I actually worked with him, like I had bought all this equipment and I was all hyped up, and the stuff he was showing me was way over my head, but I just took it all in. And then the next year I took I took a couple of classes since then from him, but I took this Damascus theory class with him a year later, and then all of a sudden everything started clicking for me. And so now I can like picture the way the steel moves and how to make these patterns, and I'm just trying to. It's kind of funny when you learn from someone like Mareko. He has such a distinct style, and it's like, how do you find your own way? How do you find your own style?
Yeah, without copying, like not on purpose, but you just find yourself.
Yeah. So I mean, I have all these techniques that I've learned from him, and some of them are like techniques that everyone knows, but some of them are like very particular to him. So I try and take the techniques that he's taught me and then apply them in a different way, and to try and come up with my own patterns. I can sort of now start to picture. When I first started, I look at them. How the fuck did they do that? But now I can look at a pattern and sort of understand how it was made, or I can draw a pattern now, like a pretty complicated pattern, and almost hit exactly what I was going for in the finished product.
And like looking at your Denakiri, like your almost latest post, I think it's actually your latest post. How do you, like looking at it, it is very striking, very bold pattern, like it's nice, flowy, very dynamic. How do you approach starting such a project? Do you like start by envisioning what the end product should look like, or do you have a vague estimation and then your processes and approaches guide you through the creation process of it? What's your approach and pattern creation?
I think what I'll do is I'll pick maybe like a starting stack that I want to start with, and I'll think about whether I never do like black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white. You know what I mean? I'm always mixing up the mixture of the initial stack, and then I'm stacking other material in after the fact to create bolder lines, or to highlight a certain area, or to create a large black area. So I'm adding things in during that process. And then I start to, as soon as I get my initial like straight stack done, then I'll start to manipulate the pattern, whether it's, making C's or S's, or a lot of my patterns are based on like an S or C's, but I'm manipulating them in different ways and restacking them several times to create movement. Yeah, it's just every time I start a new pattern, it's like I can't sleep at night. Start like I'm dreaming in Damascus.
So you actually are seeing the where it's not the material that is leading you. You are intentionally thinking on how to, like for me, looking at that Nakiri, I have no idea where to start from to even think about such a pattern.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the further you take a pattern, the harder it is for people to figure it out. Like, obviously, you could see if someone just stacked up a bunch of S's or made a feather or something like that. But when you start turning things on edge and stacking them in different ways, and then forging those on bias into a bar, and then restacking that, and then mirroring all those images, it gets to the point where people can't really see what you're doing sometimes. The further you take it, the harder it gets because the lines start getting so small, and it's hard to get all the lines to match up throughout the entire bar, because you can always see, not always, but a lot of times when I'm stacking like a stack of Damascus, I always etch the ends. I don't just like square everything up and weld it together. I physically line the.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Etch it, and then you got to line the whole stack up.
I line the lines up because there might be a difference in height of the bar just by a little tiny bit, or even the way it was forged from the end to the or from one end to the other. So it's not always just squaring everything up and welding it. It's actually lining those up and then clamping it together and welding it, so that when you weld it together, all those lines match up. And in that particular pattern, I had a couple of spots that were off, but I had so little Damascus left. I actually had an issue with that particular knife where that piece was a little bit bigger, and it had an integral bolster on it. And I was just about done forging, and I put it in my vise, and I just had to tweak the bolster a little bit to the left, and I usually put like a wrench on there and just tweak it while it's hot. And put it in there, and I was like, shit, where's my wrench? I couldn't find it. And I was looking all over the place. Meanwhile, the piece is cooling down. And then I finally found it, and I came back, and I'm like, oh man, it's getting pretty cold. I was like, oh, I'll be fine. So I put it out there. I wrenched on it, and it cracked.
Oh, shit.
Right in front of the bolster. Fine. Yeah, it cracked right in front of the bolster. It was impossible to fix. And so I was like, so I called a couple of friends. I called Neil Kamimura, and he was telling me to call Steve, and he gave me another couple ideas, and then I ended up talking to Mareko, and Mareko told me just to cut it out. And the way I do my bolsters is the bolster sort of like goes into the blade, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not even with the heel. It's kind of at an angle. So I cut the bolster out, and I still had all that material underneath the bolster. So then I forged that portion into a tang.
Yeah, I always find that like the prettiest part of the knives when you have an awesome Damascus pattern like that, the transition from the bolster, how it all flows right into the blade.
Dude, I was so fucking pissed when that happened. I normally don't get too mad because that whole space is just like, it's where I go to like chill out and just have fun. But I put days and days of work into that Damascus, and I messed it all up. My sister heard me cussing.
Such a chill time. Yeah, it just ruined like my life's work. Such a beautiful pattern. Cursing.
I know. Yeah, and I was pretty excited about the pattern. it still turned out pretty good, but it's not my usual.
Dude, like Dina Katie, I'm still looking at it, straight at it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when you said how important is movement in the pattern, I can totally see the movement in the pattern, and it's such an interesting pattern. Like it's like a fusion of the black spot images that, like, show to you and say, what do you see, in the movies,
the ink blobs,
yeah, ink blobs. But the ink blobs, and you put the ink blobs in a kaleidoscope where you twist the kaleidoscope, and it kind of, there is this intrinsic movement inside the pattern. I think going back to the last episode where guys were talking about most interesting patterns, for me, this is it. I am still looking at it and I am captivated, and like the movement, the change of the shape, I hope you bring it to Knife Show Austria.
Yeah, it's gonna make it, I think. I'm pretty sure. I must mess it up, but
please don't. Or at least bring a small piece of it.
well, I'm working on some more of that pattern. I started again yesterday. So I think by the end of this week, I'll be able to forge out a couple of knives, integral bolster knives, with that pattern. And I sort of learned some things from making that pattern that I'm going to make some adjustments with. So I'm going to sort of refine it. And so I think the next two coming out will be even better, hopefully.
How is the repeatability of such a pattern? Because it looks so unique. Do you can nail it, and you place them side by side and they look like from the same set?
Yeah, it'll be very similar. There'll be some, changes, but just because when you're forging, there's, if say an S, the way it curves into a corner, like it doesn't go all the way into the corner, or if it goes to the face, like when you go to mirror those down the line, they're going to create this slightly different images based on how they're mirrored. Because when you're forging things on bias, it's really hard to get the lines to move exactly where they need to go. Just last summer, I was making a collab with Morocco, and it was this deal with the devil knife that we made. So he came up with this pattern to forge like a devil face into the blade. I think we made almost 40 billets to make the face.
40 billets?
Wow.
Yeah, because every single little tooth, the gum line, the cheekbones, the horns, the eyes, every single little part of that is an individual little piece. And they're all forged very intricately on bias to create this movement. And so I was actually having a hard time. I was pre-forging a few of the pieces before he got to the brewery, because you should see, it's like 3 pages of processes in order to create this image. And I was having a hard time forging on bias and getting, because some of the parts, the corners, they had to end exactly in the opposite corner when you forge it on bias, when you do the S. And I would be like an 1/8 inch off, but it wouldn't work in the pattern if you did it that way, because the flow of the lines wouldn't line up. So while we were there, he actually figured out a way to figure out the angle to nail those patterns down. And it's something he actually, I don't know if you guys follow him on his Patreon, but it's something he talked about in one of his Patreon episodes.
Yeah. So when you're doing patterns like that, trying to line them all up, is it better to do them in a press then, where it's more controlled, or do you use a power hammer?
I prefer a power hammer. I feel like there's I know a lot of people use press, but for power hammer, I feel like I have more control and there's less distortion to the lines of the pattern. That's something I've noticed. I do use the press sometimes, but it's usually just for setting welds. I'm usually not like doing anything, forging on bias or anything like that, or resquaring. I almost always do it. And then also the rolling mill is a big factor as well, because once you get your piece to where it's at, you can just roll that pattern out. It won't really change throughout the entire bar.
Once you get the final pattern that you want, you mean, then you can stretch it out and it'll all stretch evenly.
Yeah. Yep. And that's something I've actually been messing with forging as well. Sometimes some of these patterns, I don't want to stretch them out like with a hammer. I want to stretch them out. I'll actually put them in the rolling mill and I'll roll it. I'll stretch the blade in the rolling mill to the bolster to a certain point just to get some length. And that allows the pattern to stretch without having all those aggressive hammer marks in it. And really sort of stirring up the pattern. When you see a lot of times in the ends, and it used to happen to me all the time, and it still does sometimes, but when you get to the last third of the design, into the blade, everything will be stirred up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And by getting some of your length out of through the rolling mill, I noticed that not very much distortion. Like in that pattern right there, I ran it through the rolling mill, and it just stretched it out evenly. And then I finished bringing it out and forging down the bevels and stuff like that.
Talking about shop equipment, I think it's a great spot to present our sponsor. This show is sponsored by Mini Hell Kilns. Go to minihell.eu, use WFI5 to get 5% off your heat treatment oven. And also you can get them custom made right into Instagram, mini_hell_kilns. Baltazar will take care of you. You can ask for any dimensions or whatever you want, and he will build it for you at a very, very good price. And the ovens themselves are really good. I use one for the past 4 to 5 years. 0 issues. And yeah, it made my life so much more easier. And while you are on their website, minihell.eu, you can also shop for knife racks to heat treat multiple knives and also hardening foil. So thank our sponsor and go to Instagram, mini_hell_kilns, and write, don't be shy and come on to WFI Europe podcast, because we want to get Baltazar to come here and talk about kilns and all that jazz. So yeah,
we'll get him here.
Yeah.
So
hopefully
one of the other pieces of equipment I wanted to talk to Gabe about is the waterfall grinder that you just picked up from Tobin Machines.
Yeah.
How's that thing?
Well, it almost ate my hand the other day, but that was more my fault. But yeah, the thing is amazing. I used it for the first time, start to finish, and it's the best grinder on the market, 100%. It's so great because, like, I don't have to wear a mask anymore, and there's no dust throughout my shop. I mean, I've finished ground that the curious start to end, and the nice thing is you don't have to stop to like dip your knife or that kind of stuff. Your fingers don't get burnt from when you're grinding. You're not risking heating the edge up, and then just having that 4-inch wide belt, all that surface is just incredible for making like
if you cannot overheat the knife, you can basically, can you go up to a really high finish on the belt at full speed, like 800, and then just go and do little of hand sanding?
Yeah.
Does it save time?
I just
Really?
finished that knife to 400 grit, and I mean, my hand sanding is going to be so minimal. Yeah, it's going to save me so much time. I mean, people should line up for these things. They're just incredible. And then also, I plumbed in. Well, can you imagine putting your hand under like ice cold water for like an hour? See how it feels.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Well, so I plumbed in an instant hot water heater to mine. And so
you have like a faucet of hot and cold water on your grinder.
yeah, so I can adjust the temperature because you don't really want it like
so cool.
hot or warm. You just want it to be. You don't want it to be freezing, so your fucking hands are aching. So yeah, I plumbed that in and then made the adjustments and dude, it's incredible. And then all the dust and debris goes into this little trough below, and then you just pull it out and throw it away, and there's no dust in your shop.
That's the experience from being a brewmaster, I guess, figuring that out.
Yeah, 100%, for sure. And then, I mean, there's a couple tweaks that we'll need to make, but it's mostly like ergonomic things, and there's some things on there that don't need to be there. And, that was one of the trials and errors because he hadn't made one like this before. So, and originally he was only going to make one, but then after I posted that one, everyone, I guess, started contacting him. And so he decided he's going to make some more of them. So.
And it looked dope.
Yeah, I went there to Tobias' shop. Tobias and Tobin have a shop that are connected together. So by the time I got there, he had it all disassembled. It was on a pallet, but it looked pretty badass. And he's running, I think it's 4x80 in the US. And here in Europe, it's 10 centimeters wide and 2 meters long, the belt. So you can imagine having a 10 centimeter wide belt for kitchen knives. It's like a dream.
Yeah, and then I have all the attachments too. So I have a rotary platen, so I can do all my convex grinds, and then I have the Tobin jig.
A carbide platen, it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, carbide platen, the flat platen. There's a table. Oh, radius platen. I have 2 radius platens as well for doing like grinds.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's insane. Like, I want to get rid of all my other grinders and just put 3 of these in. And the cool thing is I have a trench drain in the center of my shop already. So I just ran a hose to the bottom, and so all the water just drains out. And I didn't want to do the whole recycle. Like, I wanted fresh water coming down.
Yeah, especially on the hybrids, you don't want to be mixing.
Yeah. And then when I get done grinding, I hooked up a hose and a spray hose or an airline hose. So when I get done, I just rinse the whole grinder down, and then I spray it dry with an air hose, and then it's like new again. It's going to be good for my health. I hate wearing dust masks and all that shit.
Yeah, it's so fancy, like a jacuzzi. Now you only need a leather chair that is massaging you while you are grinding. You're
just jealous. You're just jealous.
Of course I am jealous. How can I not be jealous? It's so cool, and it also looks so cool. And I'm like, and warm water.
You're never ever gonna want to like grind a knife at somebody else's shop. You'll be burning them, overheating things, and.
Yeah, I still have 3. I have 3 other grinders set up. The funny thing is, I bought the Tsunami recently.
Yeah.
And Brian actually built me one from scratch and sent it up. And I love that grinder. It's a great grinder. Like when I got on, I was like, man, this wide belt's so awesome. It's 3 inches wide. It's so great for doing flats and all that. And it's just so much better than my other grinders. But then I got the 4-inch wide wet, and I'm like, it's the wider the better.
So when we see your finished knives with all these crazy patterns that you come up with, the etching always looks amazing with like the darkened steel. What are you etching with gator piss, or what are you using?
No, I don't use gator piss. Had a lot of issues with it. It's just hasn't, maybe I'm just not doing it right, but it just hasn't been very consistent for me. So I'm only using coffee. That's it.
Okay.
And
so the Nakiri is etched only in coffee, no ferric,
no,
nothing?
No. That Nakiri is not done. That's just a little test. That is literally like a test etch in gator piss. So I have some gator piss that I use to etch the ends of billets and stuff because it etches really nice for that. And I'll do my test etches in that. But,
because it looks like really difficult to etch, or because there is so much bold white space, and I heard that it tends to darken if you do long etches.
So my etches, they probably take about 2 hours, maybe.
Oh, that's pretty quick. In the coffee?
Yeah, in the coffee, yeah.
But is it warm?
Yeah, I do it warm at about, I've messed around with different temperatures, but the best temperature I found was 112 degrees Fahrenheit. And
Keith, can you convert?
I'll have to Google food that one.
Forgot your roots.
Yeah. So yeah, and the ratio for coffee, I use 14 ounces of coffee per 1 gallon.
So you have like so you're trying to control like a lot of variables to get it really consistent every time.
Yeah. So what I do is I'll pour like a third of the water into just a pot, and I'll get that boiling, and I'll add all the coffee, and I'll top it off with the rest of the water that's in the jug. And that usually puts me within a couple degrees, and then I just pour it into my vessel that I'm gonna etch in and start etching it. But I don't use any neutralizers. I don't use any of that stuff.
So you pull it out and you just rinse it underwater?
I rinse it underwater, and then if I'm out at the shop, I'll spray it off with my air hose, or I'll use a hair dryer to dry it off, and then I'll scrub it with sunshine cloth just to brighten it up, and I'm done. But when I'm done, like when I'm rubbing it with the sunshine cloth, there's zero black coming.
You mean the zero coming onto the cloth?
Yeah. It's like a very strong adhesive of the black.
Yeah, I think that drying it off, like you said, is like one of the most important parts that a lot of people might not do. You get like a way more consistent finish on it. There's no smears or like drying spots or anything.
Yeah. I mean, I do when I pull it out, I rinse it and I just dry it. I don't even like touch it, and then I'll polish it with the sunshine cloth, and then I've been getting pretty consistent results lately. It's like got it pretty dialed in.
It sounds like a similar process that I think Tobias Hungler does, or Martin Huber with the orange juice. I think from specific from Lidl.
I've never tried it.
You don't have Lidl in Alaska.
It's a grocery store. Yeah, Tobias does the same thing, but he gets like moldy orange juice and just scoops the mold off and keeps using it. I don't know. But he's got his process down. It works good.
His process down. Fermented.
Yeah. The key is to let the mold set for a couple of days and then scoop it off.
European style.
Yeah. I tried using the gator fish for a while. And I just the other thing is I don't like a lot of depth in my Damascus, like topography. I like it to be smooth. And the way I'm doing the Damascus is, you know how sometimes when you have like a Damascus pattern and you turn the blade a certain direction and the pattern almost disappears. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
My blades don't do that. You can always see the pattern.
Yeah, we've only seen it on Instagram. We'll have to check them out in person and see this.
I'm trying to see it going. Oh man, I only have one knife done right now.
Oh, you better get moving. Time's a ticking.
How many do you plan to bring?
I'm gonna try and bring 8.
8?
Yeah.
You know how much time is it left?
I know.
I'm like already stressing out.
What, we have like 4 weeks left?
Yeah,
a little over 4 weeks.
2 knives a week.
Yeah. I mean, I already have them forged out and heat treated. So all I have to do is the hard work.
Yeah, exactly. You did the fun work now.
But I have a new time saver, which is that Tobin grinder. And
that's true.
That's gonna save me a lot of time grinding everything in, and then also the finish I'm getting on the knives.
Hand sanding.
Yeah, it's gonna save me a lot of time hand sanding. And the other thing I'm gonna try is I'm gonna try and sculpt the handle on the water on that machine with the water, and I want to see if I can get like 90% of the it done on the wet grinder, and then just touch it here and there to get the finish on the dry grinder, so I don't get any like raised. I mean, I only stabilize wood, so I usually don't get any movement in it. So, and if that's the case, I might consider getting rid of all my grinders. I maybe keep one or something like that, and then get 1 or 2 more wet grinders, and then you don't have to deal with any more dust. That's like
I don't know about stabilized wood, just because it can move only not only from moisture, but actually removing some parts of it, because it has some inherent tension inside of itself, just because of the burliness and the pattern, and it's still wood. But the wet grinding method, I feel like, is shining if you are working with materials like carbon fiber. It's like zero dust in the air. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah, and I've been using a lot of carbon fiber lately, and it's nasty. And so if I can
nasty.
Not have that anymore, it's like, oh man, it's a game changer. I mean, not only for like your health, but also like the cleanliness of your like when I do carbon fiber, my whole freaking shop's covered in fiber. It's terrible, and I love it.
Itchy.
I got these custom blocks from Fat Carbon. I had them made. They're like full-size blocks of some of their patterns. And that's what
made in Lithuania. Also made in Lithuania.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
I didn't know that. For some reason, I thought it was Russia.
Jeez, that's the biggest insult you can say to Lithuania.
That's what I've been telling
edit
them.
It out. Oh man, it hurt like right in my heart.
Yeah, that guy makes some cool stuff.
Yeah. I even forgot what I wanted to ask.
I wanted to ask if you had like some kind of plan how you're going to shape on such a wide belt. Would that kind of limit the way you can shape the handle, or do you have an idea?
No, it actually is easier for me the way I shape my handles if I have a wider belt. Because when I got the 3-inch, because a lot of times I'm coming in at like a sort of like a 45-degree angle, because I have to work with
the edge of the belt.
I have to work with my bolt because my bolster is at that same angle, so I need more of the belt. I don't use the edge of the belt very often for my handles. I'll use it for like doing choil work and those kinds of things, but for the current sort of design handling, a larger flat surface works a lot better.
On that Russian carbon.
Yeah.
I will let it go. I cannot have a beef with our podcast guest that is going to Austria. It's enough with the Benjamin Cohen.
So are you guys bordered on Russia?
Lithuania is actually not, but the Latvia and Estonia, the two upper Baltic states, have actual border, but we have a huge No, wait. We have the border on the east with the cancerous tumor of Kaliningrad, the small island of maximalized militarized Russian territory into Europe, and the other side we have a puppet state, Belarus, like a huge, also huge border. So, no bueno.
Yeah.
Bad time.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to going to Austria for the show. I mean, you guys got a pretty awesome thing going on down there. There's like so many good makers over there. Seem like you got a pretty good community going on.
Oh, and also an Australian is coming into the show as an exhibitor. And I think Martin Huber, Dom, DB Blades, shout out to my Australian brother from another mother. So yeah, he is coming, DB_Blades. I remember I was watching his YouTube videos before I started doing knives. So yeah, can't wait to see him. But I think Martin did such a great job marketing it and creating it as a show for makers. Hopefully some clients turn up, but it sounds like a mighty good time, and I can't wait to meet all of my internet buddies.
I know.
Arch nemesis.
I was
even
thinking,
recognize him.
I was almost thinking, I was like, is it just going to be us hanging out together?
Hey, I like it. The more makers that are there, the more people that are buying materials. So I'm good with that.
For you, it's great business.
That works great.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna. I don't think I'm gonna sell any knives there. I mean, some of my like knives that I'm bringing, they're already going to be sold.
Aren't you afraid of bringing a sold knife?
Well, I haven't taken the money for it.
It's not like.
But I have people that want them. Like one guy. Like one knife I do have done. The guy said he wants it, and I said, "Well, you can't have it until I get back from the show, because as soon as I get done with that show, then I'm going to Blade Show.
Yeah.
And I need to have a knife. I'm going to have a table there, so I have to have something to show. And like, if someone wants to buy a knife there, I'll be like, you can have it, but not for like a month. I'll send it to you. So if they want it that bad, I can send it to them in a month. But I'm showing my knives for the first time at Blade Show this year, and I'm going to enter some of the competitions and stuff. And I'm also making the official beer for Blade Show, which is going to be kind of a big deal.
Oh, yeah, the picture is super cool. Like, all of your pictures are super cool, but you know.
Yeah.
That was an awesome idea to integrate all the other knife makers that you've worked with.
Yeah.
To that one beer.
No, it's super fun, and I mean, they're going pretty big with it. It's going to be available like at every single bar, on the floor of the event, and then in the pit, and anywhere in the hotel. And they're going to have a little lounge set up, and they're going to have all these banners everywhere about it. And then Blade Magazine is doing like a 4 or 5 page article on me and on the beers and stuff that they're releasing during
Superstar
Blade Show.
I know, bro. That's amazing. That's amazing, and it sounds like you really got your hands full. You got a lot of beer to make and a lot of knives to get going here.
I have a lot of knives I need to like collabs, like the one with Fingal. Like, I have art for maybe like 4 or 5 that I need to finish, but I can't finish them until I get through with these knives for Austria.
I have a question that I need to ask. I think a lot of our listeners, the manly men, will condone me for asking this, but do you make a beer that is maybe a little bit sweet? Like a person who likes to drink girly drinks? I know yeah, with an umbrella in it, maybe something light, something, that is not too bitter, not too sour, something that goes down easily.
I think you'll be surprised when you try my beers. They're a lot different than most people's. So, I think you might even like this IPA that's coming.
And now I have to try it to taste it. Really.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you would just have to try it because I don't think probably what you're going to taste is something that you've never had before. But we'll see.
Huh. Okay. Now I'm like really excited because all of like the very popular alcoholic drinks and especially like the craft beers, at least seen here, it is like it's bitter. It's well, some people will say you have to develop a taste for it, like olives. You have to crave it.
Yeah.
But like he said, I hope there will be girly drinks.
Or maybe not, like I said.
We make one non-alcoholic drink called Tiger Tears. It's a dry hopped sparkling water. As far as girly drinks, I don't know. We have some with fruit in it.
Not your target audience. Sorry, boys. No. I tried.
I'm pretty excited about the beer that I'm doing with Fingal. That whole thing we're doing together is going to be pretty amazing. He actually sent me some culture from his dairy there, and it's Gabinus is the name of the bacteria, and we sent it off to a lab, and we did some test ferments with it, and we're going to use part of that culture to ferment part of the beer that we're going to make here.
He uses that in his cheeses, right? Is that
that's how. Yep, yeah. That's what he uses for his cheese, but it's a wild bacteria that came from his area where he's at, and then they isolated it. Once they started making the cheese, I think they took some of the cheese, and then the lab was able to isolate that particular strain, and that's what they use on cheese.
And now you have that bacteria to ferment?
Yeah. I sent it off to a lab that I work with.
That sounds dangerous, doesn't it? Like transporting bacteria from one continent to another?
Nah, it's just lactobacillus cultures. It's like,
I hope so.
It's like making yogurt. Anything below a certain pH is not dangerous for you. That's why like no known pathogen can grow in beer because the pH is so low. Yeah, that's why they made beer back in the day. It's like it was safer than water. They could boil water and then ferment it, and then it was safe to drink.
Drank instead of water. But I heard it was super weak, just like really weak. Even children drank it instead of water.
They still drink it.
They still do. Not here anymore.
No, don't you guys have like table beer and stuff like that?
No,
table wine.
That's what you brush your teeth with.
Yeah. And then once we're done with that beer, then I'm going to send the beer to him, and then he's going to do a wash rind cheese with it. So he's going to soak the cheese in the beer, the rind.
That's so cool.
And then we're going to make the knife together. So
it will be a set.
Yeah, the cheese
and the cheese.
They complement each other. He's like a mad scientist. I always find it interesting what some of these makers do, like for their full-time job, and it's crazy to go from cheese making to making knives, and also you with the brewery,
and the combination of the both. It's so enriching of the community. It's so nice to hear.
We're very similar in that aspect, as like he has his cheesery, and his forge is on the premise of the cheesery, and same with me. the brewery here, and the forge is at the brewery. It's a separate building on the property.
And how big is the brewery? Because looking at the pictures, it's sometimes like hearing it, I imagined it to be like a small operation. Then I see like huge containers that hold in the beer, and also read that you won some awards, I think, or were placed highly in the beer listing. Maybe you could talk about that, and how big is it actually? Like,
we were named recently on this thing called Untapped, number 6 rated brewery in the U.S. That's like out of like 8,000 or something like that. I don't know how many breweries.
Is it user rated, or
yes.
is it like, wow? Then it's applause. That's like insane.
Yeah, no, it's not a panel of 5 judges. It's like all the people that are drinking the beer.
To be user rated, it's like legit. You cannot fake that. And I guess it has tens of thousands users. I saw somebody use it on
hundreds
of
thousands.
Hundreds. That's so cool.
Yeah, and it's worldwide too. That particular. It's cool, but I take all that stuff with a grain of salt. I don't get too happy or sad about if I win something or not. I mean, it's not even something that we applied for or anything. It's not like we put our beer in to be judged. It was just something that happened based on the results of people drinking our beer.
I mean, give yourself a break. Don't be so humble. Look, you did not even participate. People drank it and said, that's some good shit. And being in the top 10 in US in such a big, rating app, you should be like, yeah, you are like, it so must be validating, you are doing something right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
grain of salt my ass.
Quietly in the corner, I'm celebrating, but I don't get too excited about it. But as far as the size of the brewery, we're still a pretty small brewery in comparison to a lot of breweries. But like our facility, it's what do we like? About 15,000 square feet. So it's not like crazy big, but part of that's our tasting room. And then my sister has a restaurant that she runs out of here as well. And then we have a lot of outdoor space as well.
And do you have a lot of employees?
13.
Oh, that's a lot. And you are like, oh man, that's a big operation. Sounds like a big operation to manage if you are the one who is managing it.
Yeah. No, I manage it. And but it's nice because I'm at a point, when I first started, it was just me and I was just making beer. And then eventually saved up enough money to build this facility and get my own brew house and stuff. And, we didn't even have a tasting room before, but now we have.
And as you did not listen to the episodes of this podcast where I am, Baltic Blades episodes, you probably don't know that actually I want to, to grow this business, to actually have some employees and etc. And I think even if your category of work is different, but you still grew the business from one-man band into like a 15,000 square feet business with 13 employees.
Yeah.
Maybe you have some key, and I'm being very selfish of my listeners here. I'm asking questions for myself, but I'm interested. Like, maybe do you have some tips for yourself when you started? What you would do different, and what is the like having employees, what does that actually mean? Is it like something always on your mind, how to plan some work, or do you have now a systematic approach, or I don't know, like maybe you have some.
It's changed over the years. So, I didn't just walk into this. I started brewing when I was 21 professionally for another brewery. and I ran that brewery. I was head brewer there for 13 years. I left there and decided I had a business plan that I wanted to execute. And when I first started out, I had basically zero money, and I didn't have any money to buy a brew house or like crazy equipment or anything. So there was a brewery that was downtown here in Anchorage, and they had a pretty big building, but it was a multi-story building, and they had a small brew house, and they weren't that busy all the time. And so right underneath the brewery, there was another warehouse space, and I asked them if I could rent that warehouse space and then brew the wort on the brew house to create the beer, and then pump it down into my space. And then I had a bunch of oak tanks down there and a bottling line where I could package the beer. And he said, yeah, and it's normally that's illegal, but I found a little clause in the federal license laws that it's there was something called an alternating proprietorship, and it allowed two breweries to run in one space. And so I was the first alternating proprietorship in the U.S. and I had that first license. And so I started brewing there, and I just saved up money for 5 years, and eventually I had like off-site warehouses where I was storing barrels, and we we had a delivery truck, and we were running barrels back and forth um, during aging, and we pump them in and package them and ship the beer out, and then eventually I got enough money to build the first part of our facility and buy a brew house and a tap room. And then I had that business for 14 years now. So Anchorage Brewing is 14 years old now. And so I've been doing this for 27 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. And then, so it's not like it happened overnight, but there were some key things that I definitely, from the beginning, a friend of mine, he owned a business here, a pretty popular bar, restaurant. And he's like, whatever you do, like, if you go into partnership with someone, like, have a buyout set up in the very beginning and all your stuff set up. So, like, if you guys aren't friends anymore, or, someone's always going to move on. And you always have to have an exit strategy, even if you guys are best friends. So, I had one partner that I brought on in the very beginning, and I gave him a percentage of the company, but I said, in 4 years, I want the option to buy you out. And you have zero control in this company. It's just a financial partner. That's it. Because I didn't want to talk to anybody else about how I wanted to run the business. And he agreed. And in 4 years, I bought him out. And I was so thankful that I did, because after that point happened, we really started to make like pretty good money. And I would have had to start writing him some really large checks, and it, he's not the one that did the work for all the years to get that money. So it would have felt, I don't know. I wouldn't have liked to had to. I mean, it was nice of him to invest the money, but he got money out of it. He got his return and all that. But protect yourself in the very beginning when you're putting something together. If you do have a partner or something like that. And then
please go.
And then I think after that is, obviously you got to come up with something unique and stick with your guns on quality and those kinds of things. A lot of people, they give up after a little while when things aren't going their way. I've had lots of bumps and bruises over the years, I had to ebb and flow several times throughout the years, just the way the whole alcohol, community has changed and what people like to drink and all those kinds of things. But I also never chased I always stayed true to the core of my values of the kinds of beers that I wanted to make. I didn't get on like everyone was into like seltzers there for a little while. And so all the breweries started making seltzers. I'm like, I'm not gonna make a fucking seltzer. A seltzer isn't gonna, it might make me a little money in the short term, but it's not gonna build a legacy for myself.
It will dilute your brand, actually.
Yeah, for sure. So not chasing stupid fads is another thing.
And from like employee standpoint, I guess when you are bringing on the very first employee, it's like doubling in the workforce on your company.
Yeah.
And also, how do you keep, as you mentioned, like keeping the quality up? Do you have like some systems or whatever, how
we do we have, so we train everyone. So there's normally one guy, he's maybe like my main brewer that gets trained, and then he'll train everyone below that. But the thing is I'm here at the brewery every day. Even if I'm not working, I'm here. And it's the owners that aren't at their job, they're not at their business. That's when things start going downhill, because the employees, they start to lose respect for you, and they're just not on their toes as much because the boss isn't there, So, and also, like if something happens at the brewery, like the bottler breaks down or something, they're having issues, I'm the first one there. I'm there fixing it with them and trying to figure it out. So and then also you have to have, like, it's one thing to get an employee, but it has to make sense financially. Like, you have to have jobs for them that create more money, like not just break even, but like a lot more money to make up for that employee. And a lot of people, they only look at like their, the cost of their wage, but then there's like employee taxes, there's trips, there's all this stuff that goes along with it that people don't pay attention to.
And employees sometimes go on vacation, sometimes get sick. You have the training cost, and they are not performing very good at least in my programming job. They said that programmers do not generate profit for like 3 to 6 months. So
that's fast.
That's actually fast. And you touched on a interesting topic, I guess, which would be interesting for a lot of full-time makers, maybe, where you said that you are at your work every day. So how do you plan your vacation? Do you have vacations?
Yeah. I mean, I go anywhere whenever I want. So if we want to plan a vacation, we just go. But what I'm saying about like just being there on a daily basis, there's a lot of business owners that come in like once a month or something like that. I'm here most of the time, but they've also seen all the hard work I put in over all the years, and now I want to enjoy some part of life. It's not it's always a fucking grind. And
that sounds like a really healthy work-life balance.
So there was a point in my life where I've been grinding for a lot of years, and my anxiety was like through the roof. And honestly, knife making is what has sort of like calmed me back down. It's done a lot for me.
I have a stupid question again, but that won't stop me from asking it. But when you are working every day with alcohol, how do you don't become an alcoholic? Or were there times where you are like drinking, like, oh damn, it's 9 a.m. and I have to taste this like 3 cans of beer?
I mean, there's times, but that's a personal choice, you know. I feel like some people are either alcoholics or not. And I feel like it's something that's in people's blood. It's like some people, the way alcohol affects them, it's a lot different than others. So I feel like you either have it or you don't. And that's all part of addiction, you know. Some people can drink 3 beers and they're fine. Some people drink 3 beers and their personality changes and they black out and they turn into a total mess. So I'm lucky I don't have that gene, but you know, I drink a lot, but I also have to take. I don't drink to get drunk. I drink because I like the taste of beer and other liquors. But I also have to take breaks. You know, so, like right now, I'm only drinking. I'll have like a couple drinks on the weekend, and I'm not drinking throughout the entire week, unless there's something at the brewery that I have to like taste. But you know, you're not gonna get drunk off of tasting something. But yeah, you have to find balance. There's definitely people out there that can't handle it.
Because you cannot do this if you don't have like a deep burning passion for the beverage that you are making, and like trying to innovate and do different styles of it and tastes of it. And you have to you have to constantly taste it, drink it, I guess, and maybe try. Maybe is the taste getting boring? Is it too, maybe aftertaste is too annoying or whatever? I feel like if you have this deep passion for it, you are very exposed to it. And yeah, it's just interesting, it just piqued my interest.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, there's definitely people that have issues with it. So I'm lucky I don't.
You have a business out of it, out of other people's issue. I guess.
Well, I think most of the people that drink our beer don't have issues. They just enjoy good beer.
If they are knife makers, they do have issues. All knife makers have issues.
Possible.
Especially the full timers.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is I work as much as any full-time knife maker. As far, I'm in there.
Like making knives?
Yeah.
It's so hard to, like, I am a totally stock removal guy, and for me, imagining how much or how long does it take to make such a pattern, I am totally, my perception of it is like Alex Steele doing like 2-minute fast forward, time lapse of doing it, and it's like it's done. It looks beautiful, but I guess it takes way longer to make such a pattern.
Yeah, I mean, like that particular pattern on the Nikiri, it took me, I think, 3 days to make, and I was ready.
3 days.
3 days, and then on the 4th day, I was ready to forge the knife.
Is it like three days of 8 hours of forging?
Yeah.
What do you do? Like, is it that much of like restacking, or just drawing it out takes so long? Or like
you have to clean all the bars, you have to grind everything, you gotta forge them, you gotta wait for the bars to cool down. There's always a waiting process, and then.
So it doesn't count. It doesn't count if you are waiting for it to cool down. You are not working then. And if you want to remove the scale, you just, I guess, you drop it in the vinegar and work on something else?
No. I put it on the grinder. I grind the scale off, and then I put it on the surface grinder to get it nice and flat and perfect. But the thing is, you have to be careful about using surface grinders too, and that's the other part about making Damascus is a lot of people use surface grinders to make Damascus, but if your billet's not fucking like perfectly flat and even, and crisp edges and all that, you're going to be grinding away like all these different spots on the Damascus. And so when you go to line all your shit up, it's going to be just a mess, and you're going to lose a lot of your pattern, and it's just not going to come out the way you think it's going to come out. And that's something I notice in a lot of, and it's something that I used to have issues with too. But using things like rolling mills, and I have these 36-inch flattening dies now, so that I can get everything just perfectly flat, and so my grinding is like pretty minimal now. I only have to like take just that surface of decarb off, and so keeping everything super flat and true and a clean finish on the bars is super key.
I'm asking just because I'm a stock removal guy, and like in the last episode, Albert said that they can forge like 10 meters of random pattern Damascus in like 1 or 2 days. But now it's kind of clearer that when you do like restacking and all of the auxiliary work where you have to like, line it up, clean it up and prepare it for forge welding, it really is the process that makes it take it that much more longer. Am I right, or am I?
Oh yeah. All the restacking. I mean, that's what beats up all the time. I mean, there's definitely ways to make patterns in like 2 welds, but I'm usually like 6 to 7 welds on a lot of the patterns I make.
And it's like 6 or 7 welds. Well, I guess it makes sense because there is a lot of small work, small work, cleaning up again, preparing, waiting for it to cool down. And I guess you lose a lot of material by doing it.
Yeah. Well, no, you lose material, but that's the other thing is if you're keeping everything flat and true, you're not losing as much material. And then also, if you can figure out ways to add material in throughout the process to, one, add more like uniqueness to the pattern, but also you're adding steel in, so your overall loss isn't as much.
Oh, and another, sorry for asking random questions, but as you are so, your forge welding looks phenomenal, really good. And knowing that you are doing it for 3 years, is blowing my mind. But maybe you could, for me as a noob, explain why some people tend to use borax, and some people say that you, like, if you want clean welds, you shouldn't use borax, and they like soak it in, I guess, kerosene or whatever. What does borax do that maybe is not what people don't want?
Well, I don't use anything. I don't use kerosene. I don't use borax. I just put a couple beads down the face, and
it just sticks together.
Yeah, you just gotta soak it for long enough, and then so if I start out with my initial stack, I'll just put a couple beads down the face, and then I'll TIG a couple beads down the sides, because the sides I don't want to have any kind of mild steel welds on them, so I'll just fusion TIG on the faces, on the sides of the bar, and the ends you're always going to cut off anyways. The ends of the bar. So, that's all I do. And then
so you totally fusion TIG every layer?
No. Oh. I just run some perpendicular lines, like 4 lines, just to hold like the top and bottom together, and then I'll MIG 2 lines on the ends, just to give it strength, and weld a little bar on there to hold on to. And that's all I do. And then I'll let it soak for like 20 minutes, forge it.
Oh, isn't 20 minutes like a lot? Doesn't it like decarb? How do you when you are restacking and removing the forge scale, how you are like actually calculating if you are through decarb or not through it? Or is it not an issue at all? Just because it normalizes through like long soaking? and you don't have like any decarb lines in your like mosaic pattern.
Are you talking about like on the finished knife, or when you're just making the Damascus in general?
Like when you are making Damascus and you are doing like these restacking, like you said, like for example, you said you do like 7 restackings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you are doing your 5th or 6th restack, do you worry about decarb or you don't? Do you worry? Are you ground through it when you are restacking it?
No, you're not really grinding through the decarb. It's just the main like scale layering that you're trying to. So you have like clean scale. There still can be decarb in there, but the decarb on the surface of the forged blade, you do need to leave like maybe like 10 mil or something like that of material. Then you'll be through your decarb layer.
Because I am wondering if you are like in the middle of your restacking regime, like you are in the 5th from the 7 restackings. Maybe if you are doing such a long, I don't know if they are actually long, but yeah, if you are doing 20 minutes soaking time at forge welding temperatures, maybe decarb is not an issue, just because maybe some carbon is actually still migrating and you don't see inside of the welds the decarburization.
It's 20 minutes on like a big chunk, but if I'm just like welding, doing a micro billet, when I do the micro billets, I'm fusion weld. Normally it'll be like 6 or 8 or 10 welds. I'll be mirroring a bunch of like small little pieces of Damascus together to forge the knife out, and I'll fusion weld all the way around each of those. So it's only like early on when I don't worry about welding every single surface. It's when I get to the very final weld, I will fusion weld all those up. But then I'll forge my knife out from there. And there will be some decarb on the surface of the blade, but you just got to leave enough thickness in the blade that you can grind it. But it doesn't take much. It's maybe like 10 mil or something like that. And it's gone. And the other thing you can do is just while you're grinding, like that's why I did a test etch in the Gator etch with that Mercury, because I want to see if the decarb is gone. If there's any little cloudy spots, but it's super easy to see. And then sometimes if you do have like a spot in the middle there's a lot of decarb, and maybe it won't come out anymore with like a flat or convex grind, then you can just kind of go with the flow and say, oh, well, maybe I need to do this grind on this so I get through the decarb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I totally get it. You just got to ebb and flow with, the cards you're in. But
as I mentioned, I'm like a stock removal guy who works mainly with stainless. So I guess our audience is screaming at their radios right now for me asking stupid questions, but
I don't think they're dumb questions.
If you guys are angry, just channel that energy and write me your suggestions. How should I address our audience? Work for ifers? I don't know. Just come up with something creative for that.
There's a lot of people that make Damascus that don't know a lot of very simple techniques. But on top of that, I'm not an expert at this shit either. I'm learning like everyone else, and every time I make a new pattern, I'm trying to push myself a little bit more.
And I guess just learning at a more accelerated rate.
Yeah.
But I do like the you mentioned one thing, because I've forged a couple of times like simple like a ladder pattern and twist and random Damascus and stuff, and you mentioned that sometimes you double up a layer, like if you had some nickel steel, you'd put 2 layers or 3 layers in to get some thicker lines. And Like when you starting out doing those simple patterns, that's like when you see that, you're like, you just ruined your whole billet. You're like, fuck, I stacked my initial steels incorrectly and screwed up and added an extra layer of nickel. It shows up like a sore thumb, but that's something that you like intentionally do to your patterns, which I never thought of until you mention it, and I can see it in the pattern now that you say it.
Yeah, it adds, like, if you really look close at the pattern, you can see all these like dips and valleys, and
yeah.
If you look at some of my earlier patterns, they almost like glow in a way because they have so many like different layers, different thicknesses of lines that sort of like almost makes it look three-dimensional in a way.
And some of that you achieve with using like 3 kinds of steels, or also,
No,
right?
just different thicknesses. There's only 2 kinds of steels in there. But 3 kinds of steels is super cool too. You know, you could use like 1095 or something like that, and 1095 will etch maybe a little more gray than black. So then if you mix a bunch of that in, you could get some really cool contrast. And that's something I've been wanting to try as well.
Get some of the shades of black to like kind of bleed and fade out into the next one.
Or using nickel in there as well. But you know, obviously you have to think about how you're creating a pattern so the nickel doesn't end up on the edge. But you could imagine if there was like some cool lines of nickel, like, or even copper, just flowing throughout in just certain areas of that pattern. If you could plan it out to where all that was staying in a proportion of the pattern, that would be a really cool. But you'd have to think ahead, so it became part of the line work. It became part of the line work and not where your weld seams are at. If that makes sense. So you'd have to do it earlier in the process, so it gets moved around in a way that they mirror each other, and then it flows all the way through the pattern, and it's not on your weld lines that are further into the process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people just use it as like a QMI. They're doing it as cladding, so they don't have to worry about that, and then they can use a different steel on the cutting edge.
Yeah, for sure. I've only made one sandmine type blade. It was the very first blade I made with a buddy of mine, but since then I never really tried to do much.
Nice. We're now almost an hour and 45 minutes into the show, but
cool.
Usually I'd ask if you had any special projects or anything you wanted to plug, or where people can find you on your website and stuff like that. But I think you told us a lot, unless you got something else that's coming up.
I have a few projects coming up. I have a project with Will Stelter I'm going to be doing. I bought his 400-pound Baudry power hammer, and it's going to be shipping up here next month. And we have plans to make a beer together and a knife, and then also I have another collab coming up with Adam DeRozier. I'm going to be making some steel and send it down to him, and he's going to make a pair of knives. And we'll be making a beer as well. And then we got Spencer up here from Heavy Forge. He's a big Woots guy, so I'm going to try to incorporate Woots into my Damascus. And so it's going to be pretty fun and challenging. Other than that, looking forward to having some beers with you guys, drinking the Hubert beer over in Austria.
That'll be interesting when you get over here. We got a 6-hour time difference. I'm talking from the East Coast. You guys you'll be even further away. So the first night's a tough one. Trying to adjust to the time difference.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, it's gonna be a longest flight for me. I think it's like 18 hours or something, or 15 hours.
Yeah, you're almost at the point where it doesn't matter if you fly east or west. You're like at a halfway point.
I know, that's crazy. I'm probably is Australia further? Must be, or maybe it's about the same.
Yeah, it's further. So for the people who like don't know where they can find you,
oh yeah,
you're on Instagram, obviously. What's the website?
Yeah, I don't have a website. It's just Instagram, Anchorage Forge. It's pretty much the only place you can find me.
And Anchorage Brewery.
Oh yeah, Anchorage Brewing. So
yeah, that one.
that one.
Yeah. Yeah, where Europeans can buy your beers.
That I couldn't tell you a specific spot. You know, there's
Blue
areas
Exports, he says.
Yeah, Brew Export in the UK. It would be a place to try, but I'm not over there very often, so I don't know all the spots. I was there last year, but thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to join us, and it was a very informational episode. I'm sure Albert will be upset that he wasn't able to talk more power hammers with you.
Oh man,
jumped right on that one.
I had some questions for him too, so that's a bummer.
Well, he'll be at the show.
One thing I always wondered, and maybe you guys know, is those guys are always wearing the space suits when they're forging.
The VersaFlow, yeah.
Hot boxes.
Is that? Do they know something I don't, or are they just being extra careful?
Yeah, they don't like the dust either, like you said, but they forge and grind completely in that system. So it's the 3M VersaFlow. I'm sure you've heard of it before, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I just wasn't. I mean, I always grind with a mask on, but I've never forged with a mask on. I didn't realize there's like that much dust. Most of it's pretty heavy, and it just kind of scales off to the ground. But
yeah. I always think it's funny. I go over there once in a while, and sometimes they have classes, and they might have like 8 or 10 guys in the class, and they're walking around in these like you said, in these spacesuits, completely protected, and then they got all the people taking the class with like shorts on, and no, they don't wear shorts, but they don't have masks or anything like that.
yeah.
I mean, it's not gonna kill you to do a 2-day class, but if you're doing it full time all the time like that, it's good to keep yourself protected.
They look like civilians in Chernobyl.
No, for sure. I just never. I don't see very many people forge with a mask on. You see them all the time grinding. Absolutely, 100%. Like you're stupid if you grind without a mask, in my opinion.
Well,
but
yeah, the other thing is they have like this speaker system, and they can talk back and forth to each other. So with all the noise and stuff, if they have to tell somebody or a student to watch out or whatever they need to say to each other, they can hear each other and talk shit about the people taking the class.
Totally. Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But he'll be at Knife Show Austria. You can ask him anything you want. I'm sure he'll be happy to talk with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. So yeah, thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk to the rest of you guys next week.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.